And number 4 is an operating business. Do you think, wow, why wouldn't you want to leave your business to your kids? And what are some challenges you think just handing over, okay, you got a business, Wendy, you passed, leaving that to your child, number 1, number 2, or maybe just a couple of them or all of them? And what could be some potential problems there?
Well, I have multiple children, so there could be the problem of one wanting it and the other one getting it or whatever. I would think maybe them running it into the ground, whereas I think like if I built
That
something,
one kid, yeah.
one kid that's always getting in trouble. No, I'm just kidding. There is one, but anyway, if there's
I was just joking, but
so, but yeah, like if I build something really successful, I would rather, while I'm still here. Now, granted, we don't know when we're going to go. So a lot of this is about, you know, if you
planning
that you're expected, time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would rather sell a business and be able to get the money from it and split it among my kids
Mhm.
probably than say, here you go, have fun with that. Unless they,
Yeah, it's much. Go ahead.
I was going to say, unless they like love it and they worked with me prior to and understood
Yeah.
the ins and outs of the business and had a reputation with the company, maybe.
Yeah. That's one of the things, and that's why as a business owner, even if you have a smaller business, you need to have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
What's your plan to sell it? What's your plan if something, does happen to you? And like you said, I mean, we all have a date. We don't know what that date is, but it's going to happen. Nobody's getting out of here alive, right? And so, do you have a child that maybe loves the business? Okay, that's great, but do you necessarily want to leave the entire business to that one child, and you got the other two just kind of sitting there going, "What about me?" Right? I don't want to run the business, so that means I get no inheritance. So you got to kind of account for that. And then also, as you sell, you may want to sell the business to your child or children and have a portion of that, the one that wants it or whatever, and have the portion of that proceeds going to the other two as part of their inheritance and then coming to you for an income. And then, during your lifetime, then when you pass, you and your spouse pass, then the transition, the remainder of the sale can go to your other two children. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but again, it comes back to you've got to plan for this stuff. So, number 4 is an operating business, and like I said earlier, typically in a traditional business, when the owner, the person that created it, the man or woman that kind of built it from the ground up, when they pass, the value tends to slip a little bit, right? Because it's like, okay, is the business going to continue? And that's why if you have a child or children that are interested in the business, bring them in. My oldest son works with me in my business today, and the hopes are that he'll want to take it over one day and I can hand the keys. But if not, I've got a plan to liquidate the business, and then that way, those proceeds, like you were talking about, Wendy, can go to the child or children, and kind of equally spread among them, so to speak. Kind of keep it equitable. And then lastly is, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit, and I'm anxious to hear your kind of spin on this or your perspective. But physical property, the stuff, right? Especially sentimental property, things like that. I mean, I'm talking. You have 4 kids, right? Who gets mom's wedding ring? Or that necklace that she always wore, right? Who gets that, right? Because, well, I want to pass it down to my daughter. Well, I wanted to pass it down to my daughter too down the road. It's like it can create, again, that tension we were talking about earlier. But what's your perspective on all that?
Yeah. I mean, I think of all the things that should be in a will, my initial reaction is the sentimental stuff should be in there and pointed. So there's no confusion, because I've seen lots of arguments about, like just y'all go look in my jewelry box. But my grandmother did something that I think was really helpful. Like there were a couple.
Did she do the cage match thing? I'm telling you, that's a golden idea. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So for instance, there's a christening dress, and I'm talking about this because I got it, but there's a christening dress that everyone in my family has worn. Like I have a picture of my firstborn child in the dress, and he's a boy, and yes, he wore a christening dress, with me, who also had worn the dress for my christening, and my mom, who had worn it, and my grandmother, who had worn it, and her mother, my great grandmother. So my son and his great great grandmother, it was her dress. Anyway, it's been passed down, like everybody's worn it in the family, and that was something super sentimental. And had she passed, right, and like not designated that, but she gave that to me well before she passed. And she said, "You're in charge of this, but here's the rules, Wendy." Anyone that wants to wear it gets to wear it, right? And like you've got to coordinate that, but it always comes back to you. But she had very set instructions, and she
So
was
you're
really
the
good about before she passed. Like when you turn 30, you get to pick out your favorite piece of jewelry from me. When you know what I mean, and she would do that before she passed, and then she got the joy of seeing us receive it.
yeah,
Versus
yeah.
when she's gone.
So you, basically on the dress, you were the caretaker, if you will, for the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great way to do it. I mean, but things if you don't, and that's the key too. You hit on it right there. Communication is the
Right.
key.